welcome everybody to the September 30th, 2020 City Council work session. For joining us in this remote meeting format, we're using in response to the Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables the City Council to meet and take care of business while keeping its members, staff, and the public safe. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, by calling in for one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting material web page. And as always, other avenues of communication are available through the email and voicemail to reach the city councilors or me. Thank you again for joining us. And with that, I will turn this first topic over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have 3 work sessions today, which is a little unusual. The first 2 are about the LCC building. So the first is a city council meeting, then an urban renewal agency meeting, and then we have a homeless services last item to finish this up. So I'm going to turn this over to, I believe, Amanda D'Souza for the first item.
Yeah, and I'll actually toss it to Anne to start us off, and I will share my screen.
Good afternoon. I'm Anne Fifield. I'm the Economic Strategies Manager in the Planning and Development Department. And I am here today with Amanda D'Souza to discuss the redevelopment of the former LCC building at 1059 Willamette Street into mixed income housing. At your council workshop this past Saturday, Denny Bro reviewed how the pandemic has affected our local economy. He had a list of items where the city should focus to become more resilient. And that list included both housing and the downtown. This project directly addresses both of those areas along with some others. In the short term, this project will generate construction jobs, which will have a ripple effects throughout the local economy as the construction workers spend their paychecks. Once it's completed, it will increase the supply of housing that's affordable to moderate income households. This is a part of Eugene's housing market that is underserved. There's more federal tools to build housing for very low income households, and we regularly work to build new housing for those households. And the private market is better able to provide higher cost housing. This project would increase supply for those in the middle. Once it's completed, this project will bring people downtown, both in the daytime and the evening hours. The project will also create an opportunity for households to have a very low carbon footprint. The units themselves will use less energy than less dense housing types, and its location will make it easy to live without a car. In the long term, it'll add to our city's tax base without requiring any extension of urban infrastructure. The proposed project is mixed income, where 51% of the units will be available to households at 80% of our area median income, and the remaining 49% of the units will be market rate. The mix of unit types will limit the rent that will be generated. The rent covers the cost of the construction. And so to make this project pencil out, the city will need to offer financial incentives. These incentives are an investment in our downtown, our housing supply, and our economic resiliency. This mix of unit types will be a first for Eugene. We've identified a mix of local and federal resources to support the project. It's an innovative approach to increasing our housing supply. We hope to learn from this project so we can continue to offer innovative solutions in the future. And I'll hand it over to Amanda now, who will explain the project status and our recommended next steps.
Thanks, Anne. So I'll first give a quick recap of past council action that brought us here today. A mixed income housing project is a creative model, which means you have had to make creative decisions and leverage multiple tools already to get to where we are. As you know, the building at 1059 Willamette has been vacant since 2012 when LCC moved to their new downtown campus. In January, you approved the use of federal community development block grant funds to acquire the property as a land bank site for mixed income housing. Because the building was acquired with these federal funds, at least 51% of the units must be affordable to households earning 80% of area median income. In 2016, you made the project eligible for downtown urban renewal funding in a plan amendment. It's also worth noting that through that process, housing was identified as one of the uses that urban renewal funds could support at the site. At the January work session, you approved the use of a request for proposals process for disposition of the site. And finally, at the July 15th work session, you approved a public engagement process to seek feedback on the draft RFP criteria. We reached out to 50 project stakeholders, including downtown and affordable housing representatives, and made a presentation to the Friends of Downtown. The public also had the opportunity to provide feedback at the September 21st public hearing. Today, Council is being asked to take 2 steps necessary in order for us to launch the request for proposals process. First, criteria that will be used in the RFP, taking action to make available in the RFP. As Anne mentioned, mixed income housing projects generally face a financial gap due to the limited rental income and inability to access traditional affordable housing resources. It's important that the RFP specify the incentives and available funding so that respondents clearly understand what resources we have available to support the project. This increases the chances of them being able to present a feasible project. You'll see that there are 2 items scheduled for this project today. The work session we're in now is for Council to take action on the RFP criteria and city fund availability. The following item is for the agency board to take action on making urban renewal funds available. Attachment A has a list of the recommended criteria that would be used to evaluate RFP responses. The goal of the draft criteria, which are split into required and preferred, is to attract development teams with demonstrated experience and to solicit proposals that are timely and feasible and also comply with the federal requirements, such as an affordability period. As I mentioned, we provided opportunities for feedback on the draft criteria. Generally, people didn't have concerns and the criteria were well received. Today, we're asking for Council's approval of the recommended criteria. We've identified a mix of tools that could be applied to the project to make it be financially feasible. First, the site is now a land bank site, which we can make available at no cost. We can use funds to cover a number of standard development fees, including system development charges, permit fees, and the fee to connect to eWeb's downtown electric network. We can demolish the building and create a shovel-ready site. The building has been substantially altered over time and has no historical value and lots of deferred maintenance. And finally, a MUPD can help lower the operating costs. We estimate that the fees and demolition costs would add up to almost 2.2 million, but that number can really vary based on the actual development plan. We've identified 2 potential funding options that could be made available in the RFP. The first is Downtown Urban Renewal Funds. Council made 1059 Willamette one of the projects eligible for funding in the 2016 plan amendment. On July 27th, the agency board passed a motion to fully fund the Farmers Market Pavilion and Plaza and park block improvements, including a freestanding restroom and right-of-way improvements. At that work session, the agency board also said that a minimal amount of the remaining 1.1 million should be spent on open space projects. So with that direction, staff proposed allocating 700,000 of the remaining 1.1 million for 1059, which would leave 400,000 for open space projects. The second funding source is the MUPD Moderate Income Housing Fee. Gordon Lofts is expected to complete construction by the end of the year, which means their moderate income housing fee, estimated to be about 400,000, would likely be paid in FY22. The 1059 Willamette mixed income housing project would be eligible for these funds. Today, you are being asked to take action to make both of these funding sources available in the RFP for a total of 1.1 million. These funds could be used to pay for the development fees and demolition costs you heard about on the last slide. And as we mentioned, these costs are estimated to be 2.2 million, which is more than the 1.1 million we have available here. RFP respondents would need to indicate specifically what city support they are interested in using given the limited funds. We've done our best to put together a package with the resources available. This is a new approach for the city and a new model of housing for our community, and we're optimistic that the incentives package will be enough to close the anticipated gap and result in a feasible project proposal. We also wanted to give you brief updates on 2 other potential sources that we had presented at the July 15th meeting. The first is the Affordable Housing Trust Funds, which are collected from the construction excise tax. There are $300,000 of available funds this year, which will be distributed through a separate RFP allocation process that will take place in the spring. It's likely that the project selected through the 1059 Willamette RFP process would be eligible to compete for these funds. We had also presented the Hub's MUPTI payment in lieu of providing affordable housing. While the total amount collected will ultimately be a little over $1 million, those funds are going to be collected incrementally, with only $30,000 being collected in FY22 and $60,000 in the following year. Given the small size and timing of collection, we decided to come back to council at a future time if it was determined that these funds can make an impact on the project. Finally, we can talk about next steps. The process to get to today has been quite complex. The path has combined the downtown urban renewal, real property disposition, and land banking processes. Should you take the steps today to release the RFP, the next steps should be fairly straightforward. Should council approve its release today, we are hoping to get the RFP released next month. Once responses are received, we would ask the public for input on the proposals and convene the evaluation committee. The next time council will be asked to make a decision is early next year, when you will select which proposal to move forward with. We would then bring back deal points, which will specify how city and urban renewal funds would specifically be used to support the project. And once we approve deal points, we would enter into an agreement with the selected developer. Should they choose to apply for a MUPTI, we'd initiate the standard MUPTI process, which includes the review panel and separate council action. So with that, we'll end on a reminder of what you're being asked to discuss today. The motion you're considering is to first finalize the criteria that will be used to guide the RFP process, and second, to take action to make an incentives package available in the RFP using city and urban renewal funds. And with that, we are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, both of you, for this presentation. It is very exciting to be at this point, looking at this piece of property, and I was very interested in the AIS and the information you just shared. So it looks like I have Claire already in the queue. Take it away, Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I am also super excited about this project and pleased to see that, you know, we are seemingly gaining momentum towards getting an RFP out of there. Hopefully this council will approve that today and getting moving on this. I do have some questions. You mentioned Friends of Downtown. I'm not familiar with that group. Can you tell me who they are?
Yeah, so it's a sort of recently formed group. It's made up of representatives from DNA, our Downtown Neighborhood Association, Downtown Eugene Merchants, Downtown Eugene Inc., I think, Chamber folks, Technology Association. So it's just a lot of the stakeholders of the downtown area.
Excellent. That's great to hear. So in assuming, excuse me, we get this project built under the forum that it's being built under, will these moderate income units be designated as such forever going forward? Is there a sunset date or a situation in which they could be converted to market rate?
So what we're moving forward with is probably a 20-year affordability period, which is kind of the standard that our projects generally have seen. So that's what we would be moving forward with. So after that 20-year period, they potentially could turn to market rate.
Okay. This next question you might not be able to answer right today. I'd be happy with a memo, but I'm not clear how a MUPTI would fit in with the other aspects of this building, because there's a lot of subsidy already going into the building. So would the MUPTI only apply to the market rate portion of it, to the whole thing? So I'd really like some clarity about how the MUPD potentially would work with the project that we're envisioning. And I can take that as a written memo to council. And then this mention of, or the proposal to use the fee from the Gordon Lofts MUPD, just for me, that really reinforces my view that taking that fee rather than requiring built units in the MUPD project itself really gives us as council some real fantastic flexibility with directing money towards projects like this one that we probably wouldn't otherwise be able to get off the ground. So that's just a little aside. And then you mentioned at some point you might come back to us to talk about the additional possible revenue sources. So how in the mix of all of this, if you can say, when will we have a sense of how much more public dollars might need to be contributed in order to make it successful?
I would say within the specific realm of that hub money, which was pretty small to start out with. I think if we received a proposal where there was a very small gap that they needed filled through like filling those development costs, then we would come back to council and have that conversation about whether you wanted to use those funds. When a portion of those funds do need to be set aside for, and I'm looking for the specific language, but it must be partially used for emergency or temporary shelter. And so we just wanted to save that conversation because we understand that that could be a much larger conversation.
Yeah, and I'm not so concerned about the specific sources. So it sounds to me like once we get some RFPs and see the landscape of RFPs, that will inform whether or not you guys have to come back to us and say, hey, we need to fill in some gaps.
Correct.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Chris.
Yeah, thank you. A great presentation. I'm really enthusiastic about the idea of taking this particular location and converting it over into a housing option. And I'm particularly pleased with the ability to get half of it into an affordable category, which is actually not workforce. It's actually a lower income level than workforce housing. So that's even more to the good. So I like that part as well. And having been through this kind of application process through the HUD financing process, I don't see any things that we're talking about here that are outside what I would consider to be the normal kinds of incentives that you offer. When we put together the kinds of projects for HUD funding, things like Stellar Apartments, Willa Kinsey Village, Bascom Village, things like that, you have to offer those kinds of incentives in order to make these projects pencil out. And I would assume this kind of a project would require similar levels of incentive. I think the numbers that you're looking at in terms of what we might have to put into the game to make this attractive to a potential builder, I think is within probably a good ballpark. I don't know if we're going to be able to get away with that small amount of money, particularly if you want to build a good number of units in that location. So I think where we are so far and what you're proposing so far is entirely appropriate. I'm absolutely supportive of it. But I think we just need to be open to the fact that if we want what we want, there may be some additional kinds of things we have to put in or incentives we have to offer. But I don't know what those would be. But I like the progress we're making so far. I think it's good.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? I'm looking, Betty, did you wave? There you go. Take it away, Betty.
Thank you. Are you assuming that the building will be demolished? That concerns me considerably.
Yes, we are assuming that the building has had quite a bit of deferred maintenance since LCC left, and there's also asbestos and lead in the building. And the fact that it was a department store that was then converted into classrooms, that reuse of the building for all of those reasons would be quite costly. So we are assuming that the developer would want to demolish the building.
But I think that is not in keeping with our climate control. Demolition causes a lot of carbon and a lot of pollution. And I still think the building should be, but I guess this is out of consideration. I still think it should be a homeless shelter, which is what we need downtown more than anything. But so we don't have a choice then of whether it will be remodeled or demolished. Is that correct?
I would say it's council's discretion what requirements they would want to put in the RFP, but from what we've heard from developers, reuse of the building would be quite challenging.
Yeah, so just to be really clear, you could include in the criteria the requirement to reuse the building.
Thank you. That's what I would like to do.
Okay, Alan.
Well, I guess I'll disagree with Betty. Not all buildings should be remodeled. I've done remodels. They tend to be a lot more expensive than cheaper than building new. And it's completely consistent with our climate goals. Most of the building's energy is not embedded in the construction. It's the energy use over time. This building is going to be here for 50 more years. To substantially retrofit it so that it meets the same requirements of a new code building would be so expensive, and probably wouldn't get there, and we would spend a heck of a lot more energy over time heating and cooling the building than we would saving it. So I think it's actually a net benefit to demolish old buildings like that in most circumstances. So and as the originator of the MUPD fee for housing projects, this is exactly what I had in mind when I proposed it, to be able to give us some flexibility and promote projects like this. And I hope that we'd have a lot more than 400,000. We do a little bit more from the hub projects, but what is the amount that the hub projects, I know that was phased in over time. I forget how long that phase in was and how much each chunk was. And so how much of that do we have now?
So we don't have any now. The first payment is FY22, which is at 30,000, and it's over the final 5 years of the exemption. So the first one is 30, and I think the last one is 400, and in total, it's going to be a little over $1 million.
So we can bank on those, correct? Those funds. So we could use those prospective monies to help fund this project because they're going to be paid unless the hub completely goes away. But even then, you'd still have to recourse back to the corporation. So that might be a really good source of funds in addition. So over the next, because this isn't even going to get off the ground for a couple of years. So we'll have several years of actual dollars in hand plus promised dollars. Do we have any idea of how many units could be placed on a lot of this size? I know it depends on kind of how high you go and stuff like that, but you guys working estimates of how many we might get?
What we did is we modeled it at 5 stories, and that got us to around 100 units. And we came at it from 2 different ways, and each landed on about 100 units. And that's using a mix of what we've seen demand in the market. There's a lot of demand for studios, a lot of demand for 1 bedrooms, and then throw in some 2 bedrooms as well.
Yeah, we don't have any restrictions on number of bedrooms. It's not going to be like quads, so that would be more like student housing. This would be more like individual apartments.
If it wanted to be eligible for a MUPD, it couldn't be quads.
Be student.
Yeah, it would look like student housing.
Yeah, that's how we define. Is that how we defined it in MUPD?
Yeah.
I don't remember. The other, I want to explore the idea of why isn't this just going to be an affordable housing project forever? I mean, what we're proposing is an RFP that has 51% of those 100 units being affordable housing for 20 years, but then after that, they could go to market rate. The rest of the things would be at market rate. I'm wondering why we wouldn't just propose an all affordable housing type project. Those types of projects have a lot of additional incentives like federal tax credits and other kinds of incentives to do those kind of projects that might make this a very doable project. Did you explore that?
I don't know if Anne, you want to chime in. Oh, I mean, we have discussed it. I think the idea for this project was this opportunity to do something new and innovative, especially since 80% AMI households generally can't qualify for the lower thresholds and have a hard time finding market rate rentals that they can afford. And so the fact we wanted to use this as an opportunity to explore something different and innovative.
And one reason, go ahead, Denny.
Oh, sorry, this is Denny Bro. I just wanted to add, this is really a direct response to our need for middle housing. We've talked about that a lot as part of our housing tools and strategies work. This is one of the hardest things to solve because there's, as you've mentioned, Councilor Lincoln, there's a lot more incentives available for truly subsidized affordable housing. And we are doing a lot of that. And so our hope is that we do both. We do the affordable housing and we do the middle housing, and it's not one or the other. So I don't think this is a one or the other equation. I think we want to do both.
Yeah, I like the and part of it. But anything in the RFP that's going to require that they be that missing middle housing for not affordable housing technically, but or are we just putting that in as a desire?
So the proposals will have to have a project that has 51% of the units at that 80% AMI. If they wanted to, they could put in a proposal that makes them all 80%, but that would really impact their rents and their income, which I think would make the financial gap even bigger. So if they had the magic to make it work, that's possible, but there will be a requirement that those units must be 80% AMI.
I'll need another round, Mayor.
Okay, I actually don't see any other hands raised, so you can just go ahead and have your second round.
Well, yeah, thanks. I guess following up on that. So when you're modeling, you don't believe a fully, all of the units at up to 80% AMI project would work?
The financial gap would be very large, and we haven't been able to identify. I mean, it's possible if there were more resources to cover that financial gap.
Mm-hmm. And what's
We're
the
going with
estimate of the financial gap for 51%?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
What's the estimate of the financial gap for a 51%, 80% AMI?
We modeling it 5 floors and about 100 units. We came up with about $2.2 million gap.
That's the 2.2 million.
That modeling, yeah.
So does that assume that is it just a 20-year model and it doesn't take into consideration what happens after that with the AMI units, 80% AMI units going to market rate, or is it just end at 20 years?
I think actually the model may extend out to 30 years just because that's typically I'll throw that in as the length of a mortgage, and for it to achieve financial stability, you really want it to be in the black, to be net even at least by 10 years. And so there's multiple ways to model it, but what we looked at was identifying what its value was at that 10-year mark. So what happens at 20 or 30 years is sort of, it's neither here nor there for that financial feasibility. By that point, It's already making enough revenue.
Good, because the question I want to have answered and maybe make a potential motion is why would we just limit the 80% AMI to 20-year period? Why wouldn't we make them permanent? If it's not going to affect the financial model, if the developer gets payment or gets what they need out of it in that 20-year time frame, after that we'd still get this kind of workforce housing, low affordable housing, and it wouldn't affect their ability to do the project, but we'd still maintain it after that with the possibility of it going away if we don't guarantee it.
Ellen, would you have an opportunity to maybe share a little bit about how we deal with the affordability period with our affordable housing projects, and usually what happens? And they usually go well beyond the affordability period because most of them stay affordable housing for long term. But Ellen, can you shed some light on that?
Well, for our regular subsidized affordable housing, they have other state financing, and the low-income rental housing property tax exemption. You can actually renew that resource every 20 years. And so they have a financial assistance that allows them to keep it affordable over a longer period of time. If you ask a developer to, if you say, we're going to give incentives for you to keep 51% of the units affordable for a 20-year period, there is no other resources to put into it after 20 years that could help them cover the gap between the cost of operations and the low rents that are limited because of the 80% area median income levels. And so the problem would be by requiring a longer affordability period without any means of assistance for those future years, there's just less of a guarantee for developers that they'll even break even to be able to operate the units. So that's one of the reasons that there's a finite number of years that we establish so that a developer could consider how they would refinance or how they would recapitalize the units at that point in time.
Well, that kind of leads me to believe that it's almost guaranteed that they'll flip to market-based rates after the 20 years.
It depends on what the proposals are that we're going to receive, because if, for example, a developer is an affordable housing provider, that's part of their mission to provide the units to be affordable over time. Another opportunity is that a developer could propose that those 51% of the units, they could lower it to 60% of area median income somewhat in response to your previous question, that it is possible for a developer to propose a lower area median income, and they could potentially access different sorts of incentives for those units at 60% of area median income. It would cause a larger gap, but those incentives might be available to cover the costs, the additional gaps that are created from the lower rent levels. It depends on what kind of proposals that we get. So it's very difficult to tell right now. But if affordable housing providers are the ones that are going to be developing this project, then they would have it as their mission to be much longer than the affordability period we set.
Well, and so the evaluation committee is going to score these, right? These proposals. So I don't want to say that they have to be forever affordable housing or 80% AMI, less than 80% AMI, but can we give extra bonus points within the scoring system of evaluation to proposals that actually show that and do that, so that it favors those kind of proposals and gives an incentive for folks to consider that? And that wouldn't take it out of people's realm. Maybe we don't get any, but if we could give bonus points for that. I know bonus points actually make a difference in a lot of selection processes and the types of proposals you get. So is that something we need to do by motion, or is that something that staff can do?
Councilor Zelenka, we can definitely do that. We usually weight different criteria in an RFP, either by bonus points or by extra weight.
Yeah, waiting.
Definitely consider the threshold that they reach for affordability and the number of units and all of those things. And then keep in mind, ultimately, council was going to approve which project moves forward. So you'll have access to all the information around affordability periods and all of that as part of your approval process.
Yeah, well, that's after the selection committee makes their recommendation, staff makes their recommendation. So yeah, we get to approve it, but sort of. But so is that something you can do, is add in heavier weighting for proposals that have post 20-year affordable housing units?
Yeah, we'll take that as absolute feedback. Unless you want to make a motion, we can definitely do that in the RFP.
Well, if you say you're going to do it, I don't need to do a motion. If you don't, then I will.
I want to just jump in there because Councilor Taylor has also asked about changing the criteria to include reusing the building. So I think we want to be somewhat consistent in how we add those things to the criteria. And if council wants to include required reuse, I think you're probably going to want to motion on that.
Okay,
So you can do both at the same time.
Then I will move to add additional weighting to favor projects that continue affordable housing units up to 80% AMI past the 20-year period.
Second.
You're muted, Mayor.
Mute, Mayor.
Sorry. I have a couple of other counselors in the queue. So before we vote on that, I would actually like to let those other counselors speak. Greg up for a first run, Mike for a first, and then cycle back to Claire and Chris for their second rounds.
No, I just wanted to make an adjoining comment and respond to Councilor Taylor's desire for reuse of the building. You know, I've taught classes in that building, and there has been little to no maintenance in that building for many, many years. One of the reasons why we closed it, a lot of asbestos removal has to be done, and there's structural degrading and damage to that facility. So, you know, by advice from experts, they have said to us before we sold the building to the city that, you know, the only way you're going to really get anything out of it is to demolish it and to rebuild. There's no value in reusing the site as is. Costs too much money.
Okay, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll vote against if Alan alters the motion in that way, just because I think the purpose of doing an RFP in the first place is to see creative proposals. And if we're going to limit the scope of it that far, I think that's a bad idea. So I'm certainly on board with the idea that the longer we keep affordable units available, the better it is. I certainly understand the benefit of that. But require it may be precluding something else that we may not know we want. For example, and I'm just speaking hypothetically, what if somebody was able to make the project pencil out where the first 10 years, the rents are incredibly affordable. They're affordable to the lowest percentile of renter, for example. And in the out years, then they'll be closer to market. But in those first 10 years, you have something that, you know, solves maybe a different problem. And I'm, like I said, I just built that hypothetical on the run here. I don't know what those proposals might look like, but I don't want to preclude them up front. So I hope we won't do that.
Just a point of clarity, what I understand in the motion is that this would be sort of a bonus point. It's not a requirement or precluding. So just that's how I'm understanding the motion.
Correct.
I have.
But Mayor, forgive me, but that's not what will come to us, as Alan has already pointed out, will already be the recommendation. And if we're building into the points what we'd like to see that recommendation be, then we're kind of, it's not really coming to us openly.
All right, I have Chris and then Claire.
Thank you. The application process that we currently use for funding has the ability to have the base requirements, which you can satisfy. And then there are extra points, basically what Alan is describing. And the extra points are not required for the project, but they do give it favorable understanding. And so I don't think that, Mike, your concern is really going to be happening here, because any developer is absolutely allowed to come in with whatever proposal they want. And so we're not saying you are required to go 30 years, 50 years. You're only required to meet the conditions that are normal and reasonable for this kind of a project, which normally is 20 years. So if we have 5 proposals and all 5 of them say, you know, I can only really make this pencil for 20 years and then I really gotta change the rates, and those are the only proposals we have, then those are the only proposals we'll have. And we can't just say, oh, well, then we're not going to do anything. We probably will pick one of them, knowing that that was the only way they could make it pencil out. The alternative to what Alan is proposing would be to say you can require it forever, but then we would have to build the project, because I don't think there'd be any developer that would come and say, okay, I'm going to assume that level of obligation, whether you help me out after 20 years or not. And so I think what Alan's proposing is probably a kind of a reasonable middle ground. It says, gee, we would love it if you could build a project that maintained affordability beyond the period of time in which we are providing active support. But if you can't make it pencil out, and somebody else can, we'll look at that more favorably. And so I think it's an incentive, not a requirement, that a developer say, is there some way we can do this so we could extend that period? And if they can't figure out a way to do it, then we're not saying they have to. They can come in and they can make their best proposal. And I've seen that before. I've seen people come in and say, I can't make it past 20 years, in which case we've said, okay, I understand you did the math. We verify their math. Staff verifies that this is indeed what they can't do. And then we go from there. And we've awarded projects who could only meet a 20-year requirement. The money was not there, or the cash flow projection wasn't there to be able to make it work beyond. I like what Alan's saying. It'd be nice if somebody can actually stretch and do it, but I agree with you. We should not make a requirement, and what Alan's proposing would not make a requirement. It's extra points, not required. And the final thing with regard to the current LCC building, Greg and Alan are absolutely right. That building, it would cost so much money to try to restore it, and you wouldn't get anything for it. You'd have a energy wasting, expensive remodel building that wouldn't meet the housing requirements we need.
Okay, thank you. Claire, you're up.
Thank you. Chris, there's something going on with your mic and the sound is very crackly from you for some reason. And I was basically going to say what Chris said. So I don't think the motion that Alan's proposing is going to preclude anyone. People can still put forward a proposal. We might not get any proposals that score bonus points on a going past 20 years. So, but it's really just, again, kind of indicating if you can do this, if you're an affordable housing developer and can do this, then you're going to have a leg up over someone who's not. And then I just wanted to weigh in on, I don't see any value in trying to reuse that building. There's nothing historic about it. It's a very, 1970s low cost building that has not had any maintenance in a long time, and trying to retrofit it to be good quality, affordable housing, I think is a losing proposition. So I wouldn't support that.
Okay, I have Mike for one more round, and then I think we need to move to the Alan's motion and then the.
Thank you, Mayor Denny. Rest of staff, do you think in the current market where the conditions are what they are, that a developer, knowing that there may be one or two folks who could meet those bonus criteria or are oriented as an organization to want to, as a provider of low-income housing, do you think there's a developer who might have another idea who would waste their time creating an RFP if they knew somebody else who could meet those criteria was putting in for it? In other words, don't you think that this motion has the opportunity to preclude a developer from even participating in creating an RFP in the first place because they know they're not going to make those points?
I think that's a reasonable question. We've actually done a lot of RFPs, either for affordable housing or for market rate and commercial development downtown. I fully expect that we will put extra weight, if you want to call it that, on the things that are important in this project. And years of affordability is one of them. We'll also consider the number of units, because I think more affordable housing units is better than less. We'll consider the income threshold, because someone may propose at 80%, someone may propose potentially at 60%. So my expectation is the RFP would reflect all of those values and give extra consideration, extra weight, extra whatever. And we do that all the time with RFPs is we kind of say, here's the high threshold, but here's the range to work in, and you can reach for any target. I think we will get an interesting mix of responses given the housing demand, given the housing market. Housing is one thing right now in our economy that is really strong. So investors are chasing those projects is my sense. So I think we'll get some interesting proposals the way it's laid out. And I think it's reasonable to emphasize in the RFP the things that we value.
Okay, thank you. So we're ready for a vote on Alan's motion. And can you just restate the motion? Somebody restate the motion so we know exactly what it says.
Want me to do that? I was that we add greater weighting for proposals that provide for households earning up to 80% AMI for greater than 20 years.
Got it. Okay. All in favor?
As a criteria.
As a criteria. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who am I missing? Greg. Oh, there you are. Okay, got it.
Greg's there.
Greg's there. Okay, I saw everybody. So that passes. Thank you very much. Now we're on to the main motion.
And if I could add, when Councilor Simple, when you make the main motion, you'll want to say cite using the RFP criteria in attachment A and including Councilor Zelenka's motion amendment, because to capture that.
Okay. Emily, are you up? Hang on, Alan, just one second. Do you need to speak to this before we put the motion on the table, Alan?
It's a question.
Okay.
Before we put it.
All right.
The idea of adding in some of the certain hub funds that come into this, is that a different topic? We're gonna talk about some of the other things in the next work session. Where does that come in? And you also said we would come back later with some ideas about money, sources of funds.
I think it would be helpful for us to move forward and then see what we get in response to the RFP. And, usually what we ask for is pro forma and for respondents to demonstrate what the gap is. And if we find that we have good proposals, but we just don't have enough incentive, we could come back and start and talk to council about some of those options as part of our kind of deal points for the development as we move forward.
So the RFP would say we've got the 1.1 million. If you need more than that to fill the gap, please identify it. And that one of those sources could be the hub funds, for instance.
That's definitely possible.
Okay.
All right, Emily, will you put the motion on the table?
Move to direct the city manager to release the RFP for disposition of the 1059 Willamette site using the RFP criteria in attachment A, including Councilor Zelenka's amendments, and direct the city manager to identify the Gordon Lofts MUPD moderate income housing fee, an estimated $400,000, as available funding in the RFP to support the 1059 Willamette project.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that passes. Thank you very much. That was great. And now I adjourn the meeting of Eugene City Council and open the meeting of the Eugene Urban Renewal Agency. And do we need to, is this clear? Manager, do you want to speak to this in any way?
I don't think so. I think Amanda did a good job of describing what this money was in her original presentation.
Okay, Emily, would you like to put this motion on the table?
Move to direct the agency director to identify $700,000 of downtown urban renewal tax increment funds as available funding in the city RFP to support the 1059 Willamette project.
Second.
Any comments, questions, need for clarification? Great. All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Excellent. That passes. Thank you very, very much. And thank you, Amanda, for your presentation, Denny, Anne, for helping us through all that. And with this, I adjourn the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency and reconvene the meeting of the Eugene City Council for our third agenda item. And with that, I will turn that over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to just have Brooke and I think Sarai jump in here.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Can you see my screen okay? Great. Well, good afternoon. Today we are here to provide you with an update on emergency shelter and seek your direction on the potential establishment of additional rest stops and microsites. I'm joined today by Peter Chavan, Homeless Systems Policy Manager, and Sarai Johnson, Joint Housing and Shelter Strategist. For those listening in, I'm Brooke Freed, Director for the City Manager's Office. When we met with you in June, we provided an update on COVID-19 impacts to our unhoused community, as well as progress on the TAC implementation. At that meeting, you voiced support for the continued expansion of microsites and rest stops. In July, you met in joint session with Lane County and received additional updates on the status of the TAC work. At that meeting, staff provided updated housing and shelter projections based on the current number of unhoused community members. At your recent goals workshop on Saturday, September 26th, you reaffirmed the need to urgently address homelessness in Eugene. There were 2,400 active individuals on the homeless by name list in August who listed Eugene as their residents. This number does include those staying in emergency shelter programs. Currently, there are approximately 655 emergency shelter spaces throughout the city. As winter approaches, we know that we'll need to adapt our typical strategy of using congregate warming centers during freezing temperatures. Right now, we have an opportunity to add up to 100 new emergency shelter beds by opening new rest stops and microsites, utilizing CARES CRF funding, in addition to FY21 general fund dollars earmarked by the city manager to support the unhoused during the COVID response, and previously approved CDBG CV resources. In order to take advantage of the CARES funding for one-time infrastructure, the sites must be established and structures built before December 30th. I know this sounds like a tall order, but I believe that our team and our community partners are up to the task. Now I'll turn it over to Peter, who will share more about the proposed rest stop sites and the community engagement plan.
Thanks, Brooke. Good afternoon, Mayor, councilors. As Brooke mentioned, we intend to increase our alternative shelter capacity by approximately 100 beds through a combination of rest stops and microsites. The rest stops are a cost-effective, proven model with demonstrable outcomes, both for individuals so sheltered and the surrounding area. They can begin with a census of up to 15 people and expand to 20 after 6 months of successful operation. Each rest stop includes privacy fencing, bathrooms, hand washing, communal storage, kitchen, and warming areas. Shelter is achieved through individual living units, like the Conestoga huts you are all familiar with. Site management will be provided by a social service agency with linkages to the broader homeless service system, thereby connecting these rest stops to the city's collaboration with the county on TAC implementation and inclement weather strategies. This model meets CDC COVID response recommendations for non-congregate shelter. And as Brooke already mentioned, they will be paid for by a combination of the city's COVID response general fund dollars, CARES reimbursable dollars, and CDBG funding. As we look to site rest stops, there are a number of variables we consider. Geographic distribution, access to transportation, site conditions, proximity to services, existing unhoused in the area, and adjacent uses. Collaboration across city departments has produced the following priority sites. We intend to expand the microsite currently operating at Skinner City Farm into a full rest stop. This is in Ward 7. We are looking to add one at Empire Pond, which is just off the intersection of Barger and Highway 99 in Ward 6. Westmoreland Park is our third location adjacent to Albertsons. Our fourth location is at the corner of Leo Harris Parkway and Walnut Drive near Autzen Stadium and the BMX track. That's in Ward 4. And our final location is Bertelsen Nature Park in Ward 8. You'll notice that each of these sites is in a different ward, supporting a long-standing council goal of geographic dispersion. We also continue to identify microsite locations, and I have a number of these under exploration. We've not completed our intended neighborhood engagement process, as the timeline for expending funds has necessitated moving several pieces forward simultaneously. We wanted to bring sites to council as soon as possible to maximize our ability to spend CARES reimbursable dollars. We have, however, communicated with the chairs of the impacted neighborhood associations, and they are generally supportive. And there is still work to do connecting with residents and businesses to understand concerns with these locations and collaborate on ways to address those concerns. We intend to connect with the broader neighborhood upon your approval. This will include door-to-door engagement in the immediate vicinity, attending neighborhood association meetings to provide more information on the program model and its historical impact, as well as answering questions and hearing concerns, and communicating with our partners at the Chamber. We will also be collaborating with social service providers to bring these sites online in a manner that meets our community's urgent need for shelter in a thoughtful way. We are here this afternoon seeking your approval to site these rest stops and proceed with our neighborhood engagement plan with the expectation that these sites be operational prior to December 30th. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Brooke.
Thank you, Peter. So in summary, we're seeking your direction regarding next steps. One option may include proceeding with approval of the 5 new rest stops today in order to have these sites in place by December 30th. You have a motion if you choose to go ahead with that action. So with that, I will open it up for discussion and any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. I think it's really a credit to all the work that staff has done to do this kind of outreach and identify these sites and move quickly to take advantage of both a unique challenge and a unique opportunity we have to address a really overwhelming number of people who are unhoused. So I really appreciate your report and appreciate the work. And I have a lineup of counselors to speak. So Claire, Chris, and then Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff. I also really appreciate this work. I know how challenging it's been to find additional rest stop sites. And so I'm very encouraged and to see this many being proposed kind of bulk and that they are being sited throughout the city, but also at areas that have access to transit and other services. So I can support these sites, though I will acknowledge that my knowledge of each particular site is limited. I'm familiar with the BMX, a little bit with Westmoreland, and obviously the Skinner Farm site. So I just wanted to share, I'd gotten a call from a concerned Whitaker resident a few days ago because she was hearing rumors that the city was planning to open a homeless camp somewhere in a park, maybe Washington Jefferson. And I had had a chance to speak with Peter, and so I was able to tell her, well, no, what we're looking at are potentially rest stops and microsites, managed sites with sanitation and a nonprofit. And she said, oh, that's fine. That's good. So her disposition changed completely when I told her the framework under which these sites were being considered. So that was very encouraging as well. A couple of questions. So what provision in terms of management of the sites will be made to ensure that people who aren't residents of the managed sites don't start camping in the vicinity of them? So this has been a problem at the Skinner Farm site almost since it opened. And so I really think we need to have it clear that there's some responsibility of the management of the site to discourage folks from camping right on the perimeters.
Yeah, and so what we typically do when we stand up a rest stop, we work with the provider, and to date, our rest stop provider has been CSS. As we move forward, we're planning an RFP, and there may be additional providers that we will negotiate their responsibilities for the adjacent area. But typically what Eric DeBurr, the Chief Operating Officer for CSS, will do is he'll meet with the neighborhood associations, and they will come to some understanding of a shared perimeter for their responsibility. Inside that perimeter, CSS staff, just due to their respect amongst the unhoused community, are able to gain voluntary compliance for keeping that perimeter clear. I think if we're talking about outside of that perimeter, there needs to be a collaborative effort between the provider and various city departments to help make sure that the activity that's taking place outside of the agreed upon theater of operations for the provider are managed in a way so as not to jeopardize the microsites or rest stops. So there's work to do. I'm starting to hear some of the rumblings around the Rose Garden and just outside of Skinner City Farm, and we're on it. We've got outreach teams out there trying to assess the situation, and we'll be collaborating with our partners, our internal partners, to see how we can help support both the neighborhood and the microsite.
Thank you. And I'm assuming our provision that the city manager has the authority to close a site should it become untenable, unworkable, still exists?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And then my second question is, will people who are currently camping near these proposed sites be prioritized for outreach to be brought into these sites should they be established?
So that certainly is a priority of value of us as we look to stand these up. We are coordinating or collaborating with Lane County, who has some funding that we think will support the social service navigation related to these microsites, and they have an intake and referral process. And so we're trying to figure out a way to prioritize folks who are near rest stops and microsites for those locations. We have to identify target populations, and there may be demographics in addition to just where people are residing that are important. So we continue to collaborate with the county on that, but allowing people to stay in the neighborhoods where they're currently residing is a value of ours.
Yeah, I think I hope we can do that as much as possible. I know it's not going to be practical in every instance. And then what is going on with the microsites? Will you guys be coming back to us with some information about those in the next couple of weeks?
So we'll be sharing developments with microsites in the October presentation, just to kind of give folks a sense of where we are with those. We do have, I think, 3 that we feel pretty good about. We're working out details related to that, but we do want to make sure that we are prioritizing these rest stops as well, given the timeline for expending funds.
Sure, I totally support that. All right, well, thanks for the great work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Chris and then Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very supportive of this proposal and especially the location that's been proposed in Ward 8. It's something that I've been wanting to see whether we can organize and talk.
Ow.
Chris, you have a terrible sound issue, and I'm wondering if you want to use your phone to call in instead of using your computer sound.
Or headphones.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I know what my problem is. Hold on.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I switched to a different output. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay.
It's gonna, I think when you start talking, it's gonna go bad again, but give it a shot.
Oh, no, it switched to headphones. Hold on just a minute.
Okay, how is that? Is that better? Okay, good. I don't think I can hear you, but I'll talk and then I'll switch over to the other system. Anyway, I'm very supportive of this. I'm supportive of it in the location. I think I've wanted something in Ward 8 for a long time. And I think that this does exactly what my conversations with the neighborhood groups have emphasized, which is if you're going to do something, it has to be supervised and managed. And I think that's been the key all along for generating support. And we have, as you know, a real significant problem in Ward 8 with transients and with travelers. And that is totally unregulated and totally unsupervised. And it's a major problem. And so for me to be able to talk about having this option in Ward 8, which I'm supportive of, it absolutely has to be something that is done in this kind of way with management and with supervision so that you don't have the behavior problems that are really what's a challenge for us. And so I think this is a really nice way for us to be able to respond to the homeless condition and what we can do to support that, but still not to become weak with regard to enforcing health and safety and illegal behavior. And I think that's the key here. And so I really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate how you're doing it. And I would even be open to finding more locations within our ward if we can still continue to use this model of maintaining good supervision and good management so that we can really deal appropriately with the condition, but not become overly permissive with regard to behaviors that we're having real problems with.
Great. Jennifer and then Alan.
Thank you. So yes, I'm also very supportive of this effort, and I was really glad to see the number of sites that have been identified. I know it's been a long road trying to find places we think will be successful, and it was very encouraging to see how many you were able to bring forward during this process. Most of my questions got answered by Claire, so thank you very much. But I did have one last thing. I was wondering if you could just give us a brief summary of what your thoughts are of how that engagement process is going to look like.
Yeah, well, so as I said, we've been in contact with presidents or chairs of the neighborhood associations and have let them know that we're eager to attend neighborhood association meetings, share a little bit more information about the program model, as well as the outcomes that the programs have achieved, understand concerns and questions, and develop mitigation strategies to address those concerns. And then we also will be walking door to door, doing kind of the same thing on a one-on-one basis. And then for your ward, we'll be talking with the University of Oregon just to make sure that they understand. They haven't been as engaged in these kinds of programs. And so we would like to spend some time educating them. So that's what we're thinking. And then as well, talking to the chamber and letting them know the same bits of information.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Alan, then Mike.
Yeah, similar question. So that engagement, is that going to be approached from these are the sites approved by the council and how can we make them work for you? Or
that's our intention. Yeah, I mean, you folks have to do that approval for us to carry the message in that way. But that is our intention, and that's the request we're making of you this afternoon.
Okay. I'm not familiar with all of the sites, and so could you spend just a little bit of time going over each one a little bit and describing them a little bit more for me?
Sure. So Skinner City Farm is kind of at the base of Washington Street. If you were to take Washington Street towards River Play, the road kind of dead ends. There's a community garden there. Adjacent to the community garden, there's a fenced-in area, I would guess a few thousand square feet. Right now, there's a microsite in there. So there's 6 huts on a platform. And it's just at the border of Maury Jacobs Park. Empire Pond is at the corner of 99 and Barger. So if you were to drive down Highway 99 towards the airport and take a left on Barger, there's an access road to your left. You would make that left and drive down, I would say maybe less than a quarter of a mile. Halfway down, there's Parks has put a gate, but beyond that gate, there's an access road that opens up onto a field that is between access road and Highway 99. I would say, maybe, I'm not good at space, but maybe 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. Yeah, there we go. So perfect, right in there.
Oh yeah, okay. No, that one, sure.
Westmoreland Park. So if you know the Albertsons on 18th and Chambers, if you're standing on 18th looking at Albertsons, right, we're getting close. Looking at Albertsons, it's to the right on that image, it's to the right of the path, right where the cursor is, right in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's been significant activity there, illegal camping, since the COVID emergency was declared, and we're confident that a rest stop in that location will make that area better. And then we have Bertelsen Nature Preserve, nature area. So that's on Bertelsen. Oh wait, yeah, Bertelsen Nature Park. So it's between 11th and 7th on Bertelsen. There we go. So kind of in that open area, right in there.
Yeah.
And then Leo Harris Parkway and Walnut Drive is like just off of the Autzen Stadium parking lot near the BMX track. Nope, there you go. Right over in there. So those are...
Which is now parking.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Cool, thanks. Thanks for that tour. Well done, city manager.
DJ.
Zoom DJ, worth every penny. So those are cool. Thank you for doing that. I'm willing to move forward with this list. I think those are appropriate and with the engagement plan that we have. But before we do that, I just wanted to comment on the very first slide that was up, which was that we had 2,400 individuals on the list and that we have 655 spaces. It wasn't that long ago that we had 0 spaces. So I think that's actually pretty amazing that I think that's only in the last 5 years that we've been able to do all of that. I think that's why other cities call us and say, I remember Santa Cruz, California called me in particular and said, well, you guys seem to have solved homelessness. How did you do that? I went, well, wait a minute. But 655 units is actually pretty darn impressive given where we were just a few years ago, which was 0. So I just want to take a moment to recognize that and celebrate that we actually have made progress. And for all those people that say we're not doing enough or not doing anything, that's a good number to point to. It's quite a good success story. And hats off to staff for pulling off and the rest of the community that's been able to do all of that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike, and then Emily.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say congratulations and good job to staff who I think have done a remarkable job, a really good job at fulfilling council request on this and council direction and our policy on this. But I think that this problem, as we've talked about recently, is going to get dramatically worse. It's going to happen soon. I think that although I have supported this direction in the past, I think it's entirely inadequate to the problems we're going to have. And I think we need to make a fairly significant change in how we're dealing with this issue. I think Alan's numbers just proved it. If we've gotten to 600 in 5 years, why it's just another 15 years before we get to even. That's an entirely insufficient to the problem. And I just can't support continuing this policy direction when I have daily, literally it happened an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, that I got another phone call from a constituent screaming angry about the fact that they can't drive anywhere down River Road and without folks on every corner, and how awful it is for our city. And I think we're completely failing on this issue and we need a different strategy. So I'm going to vote no. Thank you.
Okay, Emily.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Been waiting for some more sites for such a long time, and location has always been a problem. So I'm beyond thrilled that we found these sites. I certainly support going forward with them. I think it's great that they're not all in the same ward. Like Chris, I've been anxious for there to be something in Ward 1. A little bit embarrassing to be such an advocate and not have a spot. The rest stops have been successful. I see no reason to expect that these won't. So some of the questions I think have been answered by our experience with the previous rest stops. I'm really happy about this. And I also agree with Councillor Clark. I don't want to stop this. I think it's critical that we use our CARES money, not only for immediate help, but being wise and investing it in things that we can keep using in the future. And our homelessness problem is not going to go away. So I think this is a really smart way to use the available money. And to do that, we have to be really fast. And once we get that done, yeah, look for some more, look for some microsites. But the most visible people, I don't think will be staying at these rest stops and the microsites. So we have huge numbers to help shelter, but I think some of our unhoused neighbors won't be taking advantage or are accepted to these sites. And I think that we need to find more land. We need to find a way to make them larger. You know, I still like my idea of traditional campsites with camp hosts being larger than this, individual sites for a tent car and a picnic table. But that's for the future, and I hope that we will run down that road. But this is a huge, huge thing for me, and I think for the whole city. So really heartfelt gratitude and thanks. I know that work we've been really pushing for years now with a crisis and a pandemic. I know why I haven't seen or heard you is because you've been working really hard. And I really appreciate you. So let's vote for us to go forward. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd be happy to provide some additional comment when you have a moment for me.
I have Betty with her hand. Why don't I let Betty speak, and then I'll let you jump in with some more clarification if that works.
Thank you.
Betty, go ahead.
Okay. This is another monumental occasion when I'm going to agree with Mike. That this is, you're talking about a lot of spaces, but it's insignificant compared to the number. And I still think we did, and I don't think Mike and I agree on all of what I'm going to say, but I agree that this is not, that we have the wrong approach. We did vote to build a shelter. It never happened. We need a place, and I've heard this, the police chief say when he has to tell people you can't be there, there's no place to tell them to go. We need a place where there's emergency shelter where people can have a place to sleep and a place to be out of, not on the streets. I, like Mike, and I think everybody gets those letters, those emails of people saying, why are you letting people camp all over the place? And that's all we see is on the streets. It doesn't happen in exactly where I live, but it happens where people are traveling and they think that the city should do something. The people who are here, all the people who are here did not live here before they decided to either had to become homeless or decided to become homeless. But it is, I still say it is a bigger problem than Eugene. We shouldn't have to take care of everyone, but there have been times when army barracks were built quickly with lots of space for people to be. And I'm not thinking of a permanent housing, I'm thinking of temporary shelter, places for people to be out of the weather and out of the eyesight of other people who don't want to see the tents and the belongings all over the streets. And I think we just keep coming up with the same little, it's not little in a way, it's a lot of people you're talking about, but it's little bits compared to the problem. And we need to look at it in a different way and quickly. Thank you.
Okay, I have Greg, and then I'm going to turn it over to Brooke, and then I have Claire and Mike both wanting for a second round. So Greg, take it away.
Yeah, Mayor, I have to echo Mike and Betty's comments here. I think that Alan is right on the money in terms of the progress that we've made so far. But clearly it's not enough. And I think it's time that we as a city develop our own strategy to addressing this. I just, I know that we're working with the county, but we have people who not just are homeless, that have significant problems with shelter, but also many of our neighborhoods and businesses that continue to email us and call us and, say, what are you doing about this? Why are these people, allowed to camp over here by a River Road and Beltline and, other places around the community. And it's become a significant problem, not only a public health problem, but it's also become a public safety problem. It's become a public safety problem for those people who are homeless. It's a public health problem for them. And eventually, we're going to have some outbreak of some disease that we don't have a response for. And that is, that may happen here. It may happen in another city, but people are generally basically directed to come into Eugene from Springfield, from the outer cities around the county, because we have the services here. So, you know, other folks don't necessarily have to share our problem or our issues. So I think we need a municipal response. I think we need a strategy and some investment in that strategy to deal with the issues that we are confronted with now.
Okay, thank you. I am going to let Brooke speak to this, but I do just want to jump in for a minute here and just remind you that the rest stops is an established council policy. You have directed staff to work on this policy, and staff has done so. And that it is part of several strategies that are all coming to fruition this week. You received a memo from the city manager about super siting and about some of our providers who are expanding or providing more services. And in 2 weeks, you will get an update from on the TAC report and the feasibility study. So Betty, yes, we are working on a permanent shelter, as we have been working. We're looking at multi-pronged, and this issue is, we do not have one single source of resources, and we do not have one single location where we can accommodate all of the thousands of people who need our services. So yes, we are looking at as many solutions as we possibly can by design. We are looking at a menu of options in order to move forward. So I think it would be a mistake to say rest stops aren't good enough, so therefore we won't do them. It's an established policy, and it's an important step in the process. So just want to remind you, this is an established council policy to do this, and staff has fulfilled this direction from you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brooke. And then we have a couple counselors for a second round.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to provide a couple follow-ups responsive to various counselor comments. So I would echo what the mayor just said, which is that this is one of a number of strategies. We agree that this individual strategy is going to be insufficient for the need, but it is one that we have available to us with limited duration dollars that we can get in place this winter, which feels very important. We're also continuing to make progress on the other shelter options that you've directed us to go forward with. Right now, given the COVID situation, non-congregate shelter is really most effective given our circumstances. So while we agree that larger shelter options are still important, we've been pivoting to the non-congregate options given the circumstances that we're in. This shelter option in particular won't be suitable for all unhoused individuals. I think that there are a variety of options for folks. And so it will be our job to seek placements for those that can be successful in each model. Another strategy that complements these shelter options is our outreach program, which we are standing up, and the county has been standing up to add capacity there. So certainly agree that there will be individuals who won't find that this is the best solution for them, or will have challenges functioning within these environments. And that's where I think outreach is really important to all of the work that we do. Additionally, this winter, we are standing up sort of a collaborative winter strategy across the city and county and partners. And so we'll find that will also fill a need during the winter months to keep people safe on freezing nights that will be for a different population. I think we are putting together various strategies that help to fulfill the need. As Councillor Clark mentioned, and as you all discussed in your workshop on Saturday, this is sort of a downstream effect of a lot of changes that need to take place. And so we are certainly doing our best to respond to the immediate need and also to think toward the future about how we can really strengthen our system overall. But I certainly see the county as continuing to be an important partner in this. They have behavioral health, they have oversight of the overall continuum of care, and they have resources that will be important to help with each of the sites that we're setting up. So certainly view them as a valuable partner going forward. And we will certainly be coming back to you with updates on October 14th to talk about those other strategies that have been in motion through the TAC implementation plan. So just kind of wanted to illuminate that work happening as well.
Thank you. Oops. Claire, then Mike, and then Alan, and then we really need to vote. Thank you.
Yeah, we might need to vote to extend. In fact, I'll do that. I'll move to extend 10 minutes.
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor of an extension? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, thank you. That passes.
Thank you. So I just wanted to correct, I think something Peter said might have been an error. You said that the Skinner Farm site borders Maury Jacobs, but if it's at the end of Washington, it doesn't. It borders the Owens Rose Garden, but is separated from it by the 105 on-ramp and then Skinner Butte Park on the other side. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I'm a little frustrated by some of the comments. You know, we have a strategy. We committed to a strategy with the county. It's called the TAC report. You know, Betty says it shouldn't be up to just us to do things, and Greg says we need a municipal strategy. What is it? I think we need to continue our partnership with the county if we're going to get to a place where those complaints that we're hearing from our constituents are resolved because people have alternatives to sleeping on the streets. These sites are taking advantage of some unexpected funds to bring even more people off the street. I don't understand all the cold water on this. It's like criticizing Food for Lane County for their efforts because there are still hungry people in the community. I think it's misplaced criticism. And maybe it speaks to the fact that perhaps staff, when they bring us these individual projects, need to remind us of the context in which we are working. So we don't just get so focused on this and say, well, this isn't good enough and we're not doing anything else, because we are. This is temporary emergency shelter, Betty. It will get people off the streets. Of course, there's more that needs to be done. And Sarai Johnson, who's on here, could give us probably a 40-minute presentation on all the things that we're doing and they're going to bring to us soon. So I didn't do the math, but you know, I think just this effort today could increase our emergency shelter capacity by what, 25% or more. That's not insignificant. That is significant.
Thank you. Mike and then Alan.
Thank you, Mayor. Oddly enough, I agree with Claire, or the underlying principles of what she's saying on everything except for the last thing. And that's my point. The mayor has a lot of correct points, in my opinion, as well in what she said. This is developed council policy. Staff has done an excellent job to fulfill the policy direction of the council, but it's entirely insufficient to the problem. And I know what the TAC report said, and I know we need other partners along with us, and I agree with all of that. I just think there are parts of the solution we're not doing, and I don't mean to say we're not doing them on purpose, but we're certainly not doing things, and we understand and know that we're not doing things. For example, we know because of the Boise decision, and we know because of the Grants Pass decision, that we can enforce effectively a ban on public camping unless we have enough spaces. So to continue on over a long period of time, knowing we don't have enough spaces, is to say we're okay with public camping, illegal camping, until such a time as we figure out some new option. And I'm saying it's time for us to do that. We need a better facility that can handle a larger number of people so we can do something more effective and something quicker about illegal public camping. And for those that won't go to shelter, we need to have a different approach. And there are some who won't. So I can't support continuing down this road and having us say, gosh, we did something effective and good here, when we're not coming close to the pieces we need to be working on to actually fix the problem. That's clarifying my point.
Okay, thank you. Alan.
Yeah, just real quickly, I totally agree with what Claire said. We need to continue working on the TAC report and in partnership with Lane County. Our strategy is sound. It is criticizing that it's taking too long just isn't fair. We've done a lot. That's why I pointed out the 655. We've done more than most communities in the country, and we'll continue to do more. That's what the TAC report's all about. So this is part of that, and it's going to be it's going to have an effect. You know, our strategy is to have a bunch of different solutions that add little increments along the way, and that's what we've done. That's partly why it takes so long. There is no silver bullet here. There's silver buckshot. If you overused it, and it's working. So, and I think we should continue to stay the course. To say we're not doing enough is kind of obvious to me, but it's not like we can snap our fingers and say, okay, everybody gets housed. Unless somebody dropped a couple of $100 million on us, then maybe we could get there.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I would like to turn to Emily to put the motion on the table.
I move to approve the establishment of new rest stop sites as recommended by the city manager.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 opposed. 2, and it passes. Thank you all very much. Excellent work. I'm very excited about moving forward. Really excited about the next steps. And thank you so much. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.